if you're a neutral, that's the most entertaining match that you're going to see in the World Cup. Serbia down 1-0, then up 3-1, then 3-3, and the match is over. So if you're a neutral, you probably love that. If you're a fan of Serbia, you're probably suffering. Look, a lot of questions need to be asked after this one. First thing I'll say is a lot of missed opportunities. Mitrovic from 5-6 yards out in the first half. He hits the post in the first half as well. Some missed opportunities in the second half. We had that spell at the end of the first half where we scored 2 goals in about 3 minutes. And you could almost say that halftime came at the worst possible time for Serbia as they were finally creating some chances. Second half starts and it's just kind of, it was a carbon copy of the first 43, 44 minutes of the first half where it was just very sloppy. The play in the final third was extremely sloppy, very similar to what it was against Brazil, except, we get a pass against Brazil because it's Brazil. Now you're expected to score, you're expected to create more. The goal that Mitrovic scored was excellent build-up from, I think it started from Tadic taking the ball away, and then us working the ball into the 18-yard box, and Živković to Mitrovic slaughtered away, who Mitrovic, again, doesn't look healthy at all. One thing I'll say, and I think I said this in the first video as well, we called up 3 strikers. 2 of them are clearly injured and coming back from injury, and they're not ready to play. And the third striker that we have, who is Luka Jovic, doesn't even get to see the pitch in today's match. I understand that Mitrovic needs to be called up because if everything is done for the national team, that's fine. But if you can't call up 2 guys who are injured in the same position, you just can't do that. And it cost us today. Vlahovic didn't even get to see the pitch today. Like I said, Luka Jovic didn't see the pitch. Pavlovic's substitution, I think, was the turning point in this match, and he came off due to injury. I also think that Stojkovic brought him off because he thought this match was done and dusted at 3-1 in the 56th, 57th minute. I truly believe that he thought that the match was done, and he took off Pavlovic to save him, 1, from getting injured, and 2, from picking up another booking, because then he would be missing the Switzerland match. So you throw on Stefan Mitrovic. Again, I'm not a huge fan of Stefan Mitrovic. I think he's very slow. He's experienced, but he's still very slow. The second and third substitutions came in the 78th minute, and you're bringing on Marko Grujic, who's a defensive midfielder, and you're throwing on Srđan Babic, who is also a center back. So you're not looking to go offensive at all. The 2 goals clearly onside from what we've seen. The Abu Bakar one was... It was funny to me. I was just discussing it with my father. It looked like he thought he was offside as well, and then he just decided to chip, Vanja Milinković-Savić, and kind of if it goes in, it goes in. But I think I'm offside, and you could tell he wasn't even complaining about it. And then next thing you know, it's 3-2. High offside trap almost at the halfway line, which cost us against Switzerland in the last World Cup. We end up doing it again. And interestingly enough, Stojkovic after the match said, that can't happen. So it was clearly, Stojkovic is either not taking the blame for this, or the center backs clearly weren't supposed to do this. And I think there was just a lot of pressure. Like, Srđan Babic hasn't played in the World Cup. This is the first time he's had a handful of call-ups to the national team. Stefan Mitrovic, I think Milenkovic kept both the guys on side for both their goals, for the second and third goal. I mean, we knew that the back line was our weakest link by far. And we've just been completely exposed in both the matches that we played. I'm surprised that Lukic and Maksimovic lasted the entire match. I thought one of them would go off at halftime, and I think one of them would have gone off at halftime if we were down 1-0. But, the 2-1 result kind of papers over the cracks, and you stay with, you get caught up in that moment where it's 2-1, and you stay with what you're doing, and so questions need to be asked about that. And I think, just the availability of the players and how injured they are. And you look at players who are probably last on this roster in terms of Uroš Račić. I think you could have kept him at home and brought in a 4th striker, which is something that I've talked about. I talked about it on my podcast. I thought it was, even if Mitrovic and Vlahovic were fully healthy, I would have felt better with a fourth striker there. One, because you know Joveljic isn't going to start, and I'm assuming Dan would have been the player called up. You know that Joveljic isn't going to start, and he's proven himself at LA Galaxy that he can come off the bench and score goals. He scored a number of goals for LA Galaxy, big goals coming off the bench. And it felt like the last 10 minutes we were just trying to avoid defeat, believe it or not, after being up 3-1. So like I said, the backline is just very shaky. The build-up is slow. Everything in the final third is just kind of hope for the best kind of thing. And I know that we scored 2 goals, and I completely understand that. But when you have playmakers like Sergej Milinkovic-Savic and Dusan Tadic, it has to be better. I thought Kostic was really good today, and so was Živkovic. Sadly they went off. I think they just ran themselves into the ground, and Kostic is coming back from an injury, and another player that's suffered through some injuries. But I thought that this was a match you have to get, and now you're going to go into the final match against Switzerland you're going to need a win, and we're going to have to be motivated to do better. And it just felt like a lot of guys were tired out there. It feels like we're the only nation that has players who play in different leagues, and everyone else had a year off to where they could recuperate. Like, I don't understand. I really don't understand. And then the management of the match by Stojkovic, I thought, was very poor. And people in the studio, I watched after the match, kind of like the recap with some coaches and things like that, and they thought it was one of the poorly run matches that they've seen. And again, you go back to substitutes, you go back to players not being ready. If Vlahovic isn't ready to give you even 10 minutes, why was he called up? He's just taking someone else's spot who could have came on and made a difference. And if that ends up hurting us, questions are going to be asked. And questions are already being asked with our play and just conceding 2-3 actually very bad goals. Especially the 2 in the second half. You just can't have that happen. You can't have a player come off the bench, score a goal, and assist one. And now, it's 3-3, and all the pressure is on you in the final match. And this might be even tougher if Switzerland beats Brazil today. Like, I don't think that's completely given. We've seen some crazy results, and Switzerland has quality. And we've seen some crazy results, and there's no reason why Switzerland can't go out and beat Brazil. So, yeah, in terms of the starting lineup, I think a lot of us thought Sergej was going to be pushed to partner either Lukic or Gudel. That wasn't the case. Maksimovic was put in there. And, yeah, we do a lot of things in the back line. It's already a weak point of ours, and we still manage to play around with the ball. There was that one play in the first half where Lukic just tried to dribble through a player, and he dispossessed them and created a chance that Vanja Milinkovic-Savic, had to stop. And I think the goals, I don't know how many you would pin on Milinkovic-Savic, but yeah, just very, very poor. And like I said, the back line is a huge, huge problem with the 3 center backs. Yeah, very shaky, not great. And we have to go out and get a result. And again, I think the most shocking part is when I saw in the 78th minute that Grujic and Babic were coming on. Like, to me, that was the craziest part. I don't know if Stojkovic is just stubborn or... And as I was watching the match, I was actually telling my father, I think he's actually leaving all the players out there and not making any substitutions to kind of teach them a lesson. And doing that at a World Cup, I don't think is the right idea. If you want to do that in the Nations League, then do it there, but don't do that in the World Cup. And like I said, I think Mitrovic should have got the hook at some point, whether that was the 60th minute, 70th, whatever. He just looks completely out of it. And you go back to the post more or less, but the chance that he missed in the first half from 6-7 yards out, you gotta hit the net. He completely missed the net. So have to regroup, because in 4 or 5 days, last group match against Switzerland, and we'll see how that goes. But I don't know how much confidence you can have after a performance like this and giving up 2 goals after being up 3-1.